Boa tarde, everyone. I'm Sabina Haq, and I'll be conducting today's workshop on behalf of the Embassy of Bangladesh here in Lisbon. I have been living in Portugal for about 7 to 8 years now, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to talk to you about Bangladeshi cuisine, which is basically a melting pot of many cultures and many years of cultural evolution. When I first arrived in Portugal, I was actually quite pleasantly surprised to see that how common it is to eat rice pudding here because it's also very common back home. And upon research, I realized that before the British had visited Bangladesh, it were actually the Portuguese travelers that visited us, and it could have been in one of those occasions that the cuisine exchange had happened. But we do have many versions of rice pudding, and today what I'll be showing you for dessert is something similar to the idea of rice pudding, but I'm going to be using semolina, which is also a very common thing to eat back home. And the ingredients I got from basic grocery store here, so I'm pretty sure it won't be difficult for you to find the ingredients. And the idea was to use something that's suitable for everybody. So if you're vegan, you can actually substitute coconut milk or oat milk instead of normal cow milk. And about Bangladeshi cuisine. So Bangladesh has about 700 rivers approximately, and that's why it's not shocking to know that most of our curries, most of our everyday food revolves around fish curries, and we do have a lot of spicy food. We do tend to use a lot of pepper in our cuisine, and it's because many people were farmers back then. The majority that was the living style for the majority. A lot of them produced their own vegetations, so our curries do have a lot of veggies incorporated in it. I think I personally felt that's one of the slight differences from Indian curry to Bangladeshi curry. Indian curry tend to have many spices, like many 30 spices sometimes. Bangladeshi spices can be we have like a staple 3 4 different kind of spice, and we just play it with different kind of vegetables and protein and just make our curries. So one of the things in today's videos you'll see is I'm just using 2 3 different spices, and you can easily substitute them for just salt and pepper. I understand it could be difficult to get all the ingredients here in Portugal. And another thing is that we do tend to have a lot of portas. So porta are mashed veggies or mashed fried fish, and they're mixed with lots of chilies and herbs, and we kind of just mix it with the rice and we eat that. But it's very spicy and also a bit technical to make, so we're not going to be focusing on that today. What we will be making is aloo bhaji. It's basically potato stir fry, and it's something you can have with rotis, naans, you can have it with rice, and you can also have it with bread. So that was the whole idea behind what we are going to cook today, that there's flexibility to it. You don't feel bounded to a certain recipe. Play around with it. That is what we do at home. We do play around with a lot of vegetables and a lot of different cuisines. So let's see what we have, and let's enjoy the whole process. There's nothing to fret about. Everything is very easy to make. It's not even time consuming. So I really hope you enjoy this video. Thank you. Today I'm going to introduce you to a very popular breakfast spread from Bangladesh. What we have here is potato stir fry that we're going to have with flatbreads, rotis, and we're going to make a very simple dessert which can be alternated with vegan milk as well. So let's get started. For the aloo bhaji, I'm using cumin, turmeric, and red pepper here. The turmeric is the key, but just black pepper and salt would be enough. We have about 500 grams of potatoes, 1 whole red bell pepper. We have 1 whole garlic and 2 whole onions, all cleaned. And we have 1 whole lemon and lots of mince. The lemon is going to be used for zest. And chop the potatoes very thinly to add the right amount of crisp and softness. We're going to thoroughly rinse the potatoes so we don't have the starchy flavor left when we eat the bhaji. And we're gonna start off with chopping our onions very finely so that we have crispy fried onions when we fry them. And then we're gonna chop some of the garlic as well. We're gonna leave half of the chopped garlic as garnish and the other half we're gonna cook in the bhaji. Next, we're going to chop our bell pepper. Either you can chop them in long forms or you can finely chop them into small pieces. I prefer them long like this because they also look very pleasing and taste very juicy. Next, what we're going to do is take our mint, a bunch of our mint, and finely chop them. Now the key is the more finely chopped they are, the more flavorsome the bhaji is going to be. What we're going to do next is that we're going to take the lemon and we're going to skin it, peel the skin, and we're going to cut the skin into long zest form, as you can see in the video. And we're going to finely chop it now, and what I'm going to do is take pieces of the lemon and make juice for the bhaji. This is absolutely optional, but mind you, it does add a lot of flavor to the bhaji. It makes a huge difference. So we have all our chopped items here. Now we're gonna start frying them. We're gonna warm up our pan and we're going to add about 4 to 6 tablespoons of frying oil. More oil is gonna make the potatoes crispy, but lesser oil is gonna make it more soft. So it's totally up to how you would prefer your potatoes. We're gonna take half of our chopped garlic and roast them. This half we're going to use as garnish after the bhaji is ready. Keep stirring them until you get like a golden brown color on them. Keep it aside. We're gonna add the cumin in the hot oil. After about 10 seconds, we're gonna add in our onions. And the other half of the garlic. We want this mixture to be golden brown, not very crispy, not very soggy. This whole process takes about 7 to 8 minutes, this process of frying the onions. And once you see it's golden in color, we add in our chopped and rinsed potatoes. We're gonna add in the masalas that we introduced at the beginning of the video. Like I said, most of the masalas are optional. You can just go with black pepper and salt. Definitely stir them very well because this is what's gonna evenly spread out the flavors. The salt I added later because I didn't want the potatoes to water, and I added about 2 to 3 teaspoons of salt in here. I'm going to add the bell peppers once the potatoes have started becoming golden. Again, stir, stir, stir. That's how you're gonna get all the flavors. And the lemon juice that I had mentioned earlier, it really adds a punch in the whole bhaji. I added more black pepper because I like my bhaji spicy. And the lemon zest we prepared a few minutes ago. Definitely lots of herbs. You can add basil, you can add rosemary, thyme, any herb you prefer. We're gonna let it cook for 5 to 8 more minutes. Once you notice the potatoes becoming softer, and you know it's ready to serve and ready to eat. The other half of the roasted garlic that we roasted at the very beginning, we're just using it as garnish. It just adds a bit more crunch to the whole dish. And a little bit of lemon slice just to make it look pretty, more aesthetic. Let's move on to our rotis. For the rotis, we'll be boiling about 1 cup of water. Once you see the water boiling, we add some salt just for flavor. And we're going to add about 400 to 500 grams of our flour. Gradually do it because otherwise you're gonna end up with lots of lumps, which we don't want, which also doesn't taste good at all. And I'm just going to stir it so that we can mix the flour together. It's very basic, it's like making any other dough. So if you make like pasta at home, you'll be very familiar with this process. The boiling water is what's going to keep the rotis soft. Once they're fried, the cooler the water is, the harder the roti is going to be, which is very unpleasant to eat. So we really need boiling water for this one. And thoroughly mix the atta and the water. Once it's cooled down a bit, we're going to take it out of the pan and put it in our mixing bowl. Precautionally, I have kept aside a bit of the atta from the packet. Is just to use if in case the dough is very soft. Be very careful because the dough at this point is very hot and you may burn. And what I'm doing is just quickly rolling it inwards and then pushing it out. The more you need, the softer and more delicious rotis you're gonna have. Like I said, the process is very similar to making dough for pasta. So what I did is I took a chunk and I just rubbed it against my thumb. It makes a good circular shape. I'm gonna do it the traditional way. I'm going to use a pin to roll it into a circle. What you can do is just roll it whichever shape you prefer and just cut it off with like a plate on the top. I add a little bit of flour on the board, so it makes it really easy to roll up the roti. And we're going to fry it without any oil on a heated pan. And within like 2 minutes, our rotis are ready. So we're just going to quickly move to our dessert. For the dessert, we have 2 liters of milk, we have semolina, we have lots of nuts and some canela, definitely sugar. So we're going to start by adding milk in our pot. I ended up using 1.5 of the 2 packets we have, and I would prefer to add 1 stick instead of 2 because the canela was a bit overpowering. I think it was just the brand I was using. I'm adding some elaichis in it. Elaichis are cardamom, and they're easily available these days in any store, in Jumbo, in Mini Presso, anywhere you go. We're going to add sugar. I personally don't eat a lot of sweet, so I'm keeping my sugar quantity low here, but you can add about 8 to 10 tablespoons, which would be quite sweet though, but then it's just about what you prefer. I'm gonna add about 7 to 8 tablespoons of semolina. You would want to add them gradually and not just throw every bit of it in the pot, because otherwise, just like with our flour, we're going to end up with a lumpy texture, which is definitely not pleasant. We're going to constantly and instantly, we're going to start stirring and take out our canela sticks, because otherwise the flavor is just going to be way too intensified. We're adding in our raisins, our dried fruits, dried coconuts, and lots of nuts, chopped nuts. So the more nuts and fruits you add in it, the more flavorsome it's gonna be, the more delicious it's gonna be. Again, every 2 minutes, stir, stir, stir. Otherwise, there are going to be lots of lumps, and it's, I repeat, very unpleasant to eat. I had kept the heat in medium-low at this point because high heat is just going to make the milk flow out of the pot. As you can see the difference in the texture, the semolina has cooked through and we have a very thick and delicious looking texture. This is almost ready. We're not going to dry it out entirely because once we serve it and once we refrigerate it, the thing is going to come together just like a pudding. So this texture is perfect and we're going to serve it. We're going to use more raisins and nuts to garnish our dessert. And our dessert is ready. So here we are, our dishes are ready, and this is something you can have in the morning, in the evening, you can have it individually, you can use the rotis as tacos, you can have the fried potatoes with rice, and you can have the dessert just by itself. So that was our video for today's workshop. I hope you absolutely enjoyed it as much as I did. I would personally and also on behalf of the Embassy of Bangladesh like to thank you for walking with us through this process, and I hope it had been enlightening for you and you would love to try the things out. If you do, and if you want to give us a feedback, feel free to get in touch with me on Instagram. If you still have many questions or confusions, feel free to message me there. I would be more than happy to reply to you. So thank you once again, and it had been an absolute pleasure. Bye bye.